Welcome to He Did This to Me, the sports podcast from a father and son who happen to be mostly optimistic Knicks, Mets, and Jets fans. My name is Nick, a.k.a. Goody, and with me is my old man, a.k.a. the big guy, Noel. And just like his name, all we do is win. Let's get to the show. It's time to begin. Today, we close the show with a special guest, Damon Hack, who covered the Knicks for Newsday and is currently on the Golf Channel. Stay tuned in after we get done rambling and check that out. But today, we got to get started with the New York Knicks. The Knicks take Game 5 in the Eastern Conference semifinal series against the Pacers. They win Game 5, 121-91, behind another virtuoso performance by Jalen Brunson as he pours in 44 points. There was heroes abound, lots of different guys, lots of different things to talk about. But what was your overall impression of the game, and how do you feel about the Knicks going into Game 6 on Friday in Indiana?
I mean, come on. How could you not be thrilled with that game as a Knicks fan? I mean, obviously, after the debacle that was Game 4, very happy to see them come back and, you know, really ramp it up for this game. I am very optimistic for Friday night. I think we can finish them off Friday night. I really don't want a Game 7. I'm way too. My heart just can't take a Game 7 with these Knicks. But I do think we'll play well Friday night. I love our team's focus, man. Listen, we came out and basically shit the bed in Game 4, right? We just didn't play well. We were out of it. I don't know that those early games work as well for us. I do like that we have a couple days off in between this Game 5 and Game 6. I think our guys will be fresh. I think our guys smell the blood in the water. They want to get this done, get it over with. I hope so anyway, but I do believe that. And I think we're gonna get after them Friday night, because just like I felt like Indiana kind of figured out some of the secret sauce to beating us Sunday, I think we came back and reconfigured the secret sauce to beating them. And clearly, I'm sure we're going to get into it, but Tibbs doing a masterful job with his adjustments. Made a big difference.
That's where you got to start, right? Tibbs taking Deuce McBride, inserting him into the starting lineup in place of Precious Achiuwa. We go smaller, and it does a few things. It allows us to pressure them 94 feet like they had been pressuring us. It allows us to have shooters on the floor to space for Brunson. It also allows us to be able to get out and run as well as guard the three-point line a little bit more, not as much airspace you could see with their three-point shooters yesterday, and that definitely had to do with that. And then, Deuce McBride has a great game, but not just the ability to knock down shots like we saw, not just the ability to bother Halliburton like we saw, but also the ability to set that screen. He is, not a tall guy, but he's a strong guy. He clearly, as we know, he played high school football, was all state, and he was able to set that screen to free Brunson up and have that screener be a guy who he can now catch it and knock down a shot or penetrate and catch the defense off balance. And that also makes Isaiah Hartenstein not be the screener, and now he's closer to the basket and can affect the game on the glass, which clearly he did in, historic fashion as far as the Knicks were concerned last night. Shout to Tibbs, great adjustment, and it really paid dividends in so many different ways.
Yeah, my man Deuce was awesome last night. And, setting those solid screens. That's right. Not hard screens, but solid. And that's the key. A lot of people set soft screens where they almost turn in to let the guy get by him. He sets a solid screen, man, and you just got to get around him, and he can take it. Strong body, like you said. Big-time ball player at no lesser a high school program than Cincinnati Moeller. Especially people of my age will understand how big a program that is in high school football. I mean, it was the high school football program back in the 80s and so forth. But he's a solid ball player, man. And I love the fact that he doesn't just fall in love with the three-pointer. He's going to the hole. He's picking his spots. He's going to the hole with the left, with the right. My thought, this coming game, Friday night, Deuce is going to ram it on somebody. He's going to dunk it on somebody. Because I'm telling you, he gets close, and those boys don't understand what Deuce is bringing. He's going to buff it on somebody real hard, for sure.
Yeah, I thought the Deuce was excellent, man. Deuce really, really stepped up to the plate here. He had been having, some tough games in this series. You and I were asking, how is he getting done by McConnell? And he, on all facets, obviously, like we said, setting the screens, but I thought he did a very good job of attacking, like you said, and not just settling for the three. And then the defense on Halliburton, there was one time I saw early where Halliburton went to get the ball inbounded to him, and Deuce was right up on him. He tried to shake him for a second, and he looked at the inbounder. He just pointed like, "Throw it over to him over there."
Right.
Like, and Deuce was doing that in the full court. He was doing it in the half court. That full court defense by the Knicks. Quite often when teams do something well, I don't know why this is, but going back to playing middle school ball, when a team does something well, you do that same thing to them, and all of a sudden they're not that great at, dealing with that straight back in their face, which you think would be the opposite because they run against it in practice all the time. But we put that full court pressure on them, and it was nice to have, the Knicks be the team that, was able to inbound the ball and get the ball up to court. And it was the Pacers who had a tough time with it, to the tune of 18 turnovers, only 9 for the Knicks. And, we did not start this game off well. At one point, we were down 21-16 or 16-9. We were down 16-9. And through the first few minutes of the first quarter, we come out and, I'm texting you, we seem a little bit listless. We seem a little, the defensive intensity is not where it needs to be. Josh Hart, he's a guy who he never seems to not be engaged. At the very beginning, he even seemed to not be quite engaged. He was turning down open threes. He had like 3 bad, silly turnovers, bad positioning on offense. Halliburton, when he caught the ball and shot a wide open 3, I was so frustrated because it's like, yo, man, make this guy put the ball on the floor, give him some pressure. And then somewhere at the end, around that midway of that first quarter, and I thought it was right around the 6.5 minute mark, Josh Hart got the ball kicked to him, and he stepped into a 3 confidently and knocked it down. And it kind of seemed like we all just started kind of getting rolling after that. It was after a Tibbs timeout, and then all of a sudden Hartenstein is grabbing all the boards. We end up out rebounding them by 7. We had 7 rebounds in just that first quarter alone.
Yes.
And then we set that tone, and the Knicks don't lose a quarter the entire game. We gave up 32 points in that first quarter, but we did score 38. After that, the defense tightened up, and then, the rout ensued. We were able to get that 30-point win, but they made me a little bit nervous. But overall, our most complete win of the entire postseason.
I feel like one of the number one things that demoralizes teams and absolutely demoralizes those guys is our rebounding. If we come out in this next game and we're a strong rebounding early in the game, we take them out of it because they get so frustrated. Honestly, man, there were times last night when I saw Hartenstein getting rebounds where he was standing right next to like Miles Turner or whoever. Listen, Isaiah Washington seems to be a better rebounder than Miles Turner. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And he's definitely more active, but obviously he can't shoot like Miles Turner can shoot. But Miles Turner, I'm sorry, man. There was a lot of times when what's his name is right there next to you, man, and you're just standing there looking at the ball, and you see Hartenstein go up and get the ball. Now, Miles Turner, 1, you're standing there watching. 2, can you box anybody out? Listen, I don't want him to figure all that out before Friday, but if we keep doing that, you could see him getting frustrated, and then they start pushing and stuff. I saw that from Siakam a couple of times where he just blatantly shoved people. And that's you just being frustrated. This is what I spoke to you about last time, Nick. When guys are put in a position, and we've seen this in the first series too, when guys are put in a position to try to play more aggressive than they're used to try to play with more strength and more force than they're used to, it comes off as dirty. It looks dirty. It looks like you're flailing and like you're just trying too hard. No, that's not the way you play physical basketball. You play physical basketball with your whole body, not with your outstretched arms. And you're seeing that from them because our players, Josh Hart and especially Hartenstein, those guys are frustrating them on the glass big time. And that's just so demoralizing when guys play 22 seconds of defense. We missed a shot, and then we get 2 or 3 more chances. That's just, man, that's about the most demoralizing thing you can do to another team on the basketball court.
And the other thing is, especially when the Knicks are at home, and Halliburton even said this, he said, when the Knicks get an offensive rebound and they kick it to a three-point shooter and that guy hits the three, their crowd reacts like most crowds react when there's like a tomahawk dunk on somebody else. We understand that and understand how big it is and how much it's a backbreaker. And I think that the entire team feeds on that. Hartenstein, I mean, I love how hype you see him getting just because he's like he grabbed a rebound, kicked it out. I think it was to Brunson for a three in the fourth, and he went down and did the three symbol as he was running off to the bench. Like it was almost like as if he hit the three. He feels right. Like that, So I just love that about our squad and how these guys, they bring their lunch pails every single game and they always bring a certain level of work. Now, I do think that Indiana will make an adjustment and come out with some, attention to detail when it comes to the glass, especially earlier in that next game. But like we've seen over and over again, typically those teams that are not actually built that way, we're going to make them, whittle over and wilt over the point of over the course of the entire game, and be able to get those when it counts. And as I've said before, this team is a front running team. I think that if we come out and we punch them in the mouth and we do that early, as opposed to be the team trying to come back from taking that proverbial punch in the mouth that you get from the desperate home team in the playoffs. If we can come out and strike first, I do think that they will just kind of crawl into a ball and just get annoyed with the whole situation. That Indiana crowd, they're very supportive, but they like good basketball, and if things aren't going well, they won't they will, I won't say they'll turn on them, but it'll get real murmury in there,
right? And it won't be as loud. But I mean, listen, I mean, I'm sorry, listen, Halliburton's a talent, right? The guy's a talented young man. There's no doubt about it. Maybe he's just a little young for all of this, okay? Because I feel like he's coming up a little soft in certain situations. I mean, listen, there's some games, a lot. There's some games where I get frustrated when Brunson's missing and whatnot. But you know what? The one thing Brunson's not going to do, he's going to go down shooting.
Always.
He's going to go down throwing his fastball. And this guy, I mean, come on, man. Halliburton, after game one, you said, yeah, I got to take more shots. I got to be more aggressive. I'll be better. And you said the same exact thing after this game. I know if I'm a Pacer fan, I'm like, why do you need to say that again? You shoot 9 times in the game. I mean, you just have to be more aggressive than that if you're who he is in this position with this team. He has to take more shots. He has to just be more dynamic, because it's not only that he wasn't taking a lot of shots. It's not like he was doing a lot with the ball and going to the hole. There were times, I think I texted you, there were times it seemed to me like they would go 2+2 possessions without him even touching the ball, which is insane. And there were times, and I told you this too, where TJ McConnell was a better point guard than him for the Pacers.
Sure.
He was distributing the ball. He was making our defense react more, driving to the hole, making things happen. I'm sorry, man, but Halliburton at times, he was just not as fully engaged. And I was a little surprised at that. But as you said, that's that Deuce effect, man. Deuce is getting into you, and Deuce is getting up in you, and you're getting frustrated. And, there was once or twice where I saw him cross the ball over, and Deuce reached in and almost got the ball. And you could tell he was like, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore in front of this guy because he's going to strip me. Keep Deuce on Halliburton. I'm hoping it'll continue to pay dividends.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see what Carlisle does to try to get him freed up and get him going in this next game. Even Stan Van Gundy said in the game at one point, he pointed out that Halliburton was turning down layups. And I get it. You're supposed to be a distributor, but, you're right there. You're right at the rim.
Crazy,
I mean,
man.
You're a guy who's 6'7", 6'8". Go up, man. Go lay the ball up, man. Hartenstein's right there. If you don't feel like you can go yamming on Hartenstein, and some people talk about him being dinged up, his back, his ankle. I don't want to hear none of that nonsense, okay? Because everybody on our side is dinged up, and we're obviously continuing to get it done. And when you look at this game, to me, it was obviously the rebounding. And I thought the other thing that really, really improved for the Knicks was the defensive rotations and the challenging at the rim. In the previous game, there was just way too many threes, way too many wide open threes, and way too many easy layups and dunks. And we tightened that up. We were, closing out on airspace behind the 3-point line. And when it came time for guys to make that drive to the basket, they beat their initial man. That second guy was not just rotating, but he was rotating on time. And when you rotate on time, you either prevent a shot or you are in good position to challenge the shot at the rim and not foul. And there was a lot of times yesterday where, Pacer guys, they thought that they were going to be able to get all the way to the rim and score. And we either rotated over and tossed that shit, or we, made it really, really tough. And they were able to, grab the rebound and get out and run. And yesterday, the defense was the best offense. That's how we were getting out and getting some of those early shots in transition. And when the Knicks can do that, and we, as Tibbs always says, when we play sound defense, we rebound the ball, we trust the pass, we have a good chance to win.
That's right. And speaking about Tibbs, I mean, like we say, man, just as adjustments. And I really like what Van Gundy said last night as far as the time management thing, because he said, these guys were talking trash before the game, what's his name? Not Kenny Smith, but Vince Carter and Draymond. And I love it that, what's his name, looked up the numbers for those guys when they were in the playoffs last, and they both averaged over 41 minutes a game. Right. So stop already with the stupid narrative that, like I said to you, Nick, it's lazy. It's the easy thing to say because everybody's saying it. So you say it, but you don't choose to take any time to even look at the validity of what you're saying. And, there you have it.
So, John Starks, yo, man, he might have to be restrained.
He might have. Last night, he grabbed O'Connell at one point.
He's talking shit and grabbed O'Connell. And listen, it did look like it was good-natured. O'Connell looked back at him and was smiling and whatnot.
Absolutely.
But if I was watching and say it was, it was Deuce McBride getting grabbed up by Dale Davis, even if they were looking at each other smiling or whatnot, I'd be annoyed and be like, tell this guy stop putting his hands on our player and tell him to go sit down and get off the court, So with Starks, man, they're holding him back. He's got the popcorn. He's got the towel. He's slapping Josh Hart. He's ready to headbutt somebody. He's ready to get out there and just, give either a hard foul or he might even jack up a three. Who knows? At one point, he went and asked for the ball. He got the ball. He got his hands on the ball. I mean, Starks, I love you, Starks. Just don't get yourself in any trouble. Don't do anything too wild or anything
right.
like
no
that.
Text, no
He's
text.
right on the edge. He's right on the edge. I don't think we can give – this ain't college. You can't give text to the people in there. Right. But listen, he's right on the edge. He's right on the edge.
He's definitely on the edge, but that's the way he played, right? So that's the way he fans. He fans the same way he played. So I got no problem with that. I love John. Listen, let's go. Give me more John Starks. Give me more of that John Starks energy. Can't hurt. He'll be at Indiana, I bet you, too, Friday night. He's at every game. So
well, I know he definitely went down to Philly. Was he at the other Pacers
games? He was at the last game.
He was. So he'll be there. He'll be there. We got it. They call our front row that we have on that baseline. They call it the uncles, like the uncles at the AAU game.
Right. Perfect.
And
him and Marbury.
Yeah, Marbury is going crazy. But we had everybody out last night. Mello, Patrick was there. Larry Johnson was there. Sprewell was there. Herb was there. They were all out yesterday. And did you see? I saw an overhead shot that somebody took of as Brunson was leaving the floor, him and Patrick Ewing hugging and embracing. So cool, man. I want to get like a good shot of that and maybe get like a print of it and put it up somewhere in my house. My wife won't be thrilled, but she's going to have to get over it because, listen, at the end of the day, man, nobody understands what Jalen Brunson is dealing with more than Patrick Ewing. And I just, I love that synergy. And it's like, hey, young man, go get it done. Go get to that next step that I couldn't quite get to. I just love that all these guys are coming out and getting embraced. Doesn't look like Charles Oakley will be joining them anytime soon, but yeah, man, it's an amazing time in the Garden. I can't imagine what it would have been like to be in the actual building. And now we get a chance to go to Indiana and we get a chance to close out this series. You don't want to come back for a game 7. Obviously, anything can happen in a game 7. I would still be confident on our home floor, but like you said, we have that extra day. Jalen Brunson, the one thing about him yesterday, obviously some shots were going in that weren't. There was, a ton of analysis done on the fact that he's not jumping as high since the foot injury. His shots are falling short. Well, last night, physically, he looked totally fine. And he obviously just needed a little bit more time to get healed up. No one's expecting to see OG Anunoby at all this series. We're hoping to be able to see him again next series. We did find out that he's out of the pool.
That's key.
So, in this next game, we have the extra day. I think that's advantage Knicks. That Halliburton, that all these guys are going to come out ready to go. Hey, they came out in that third quarter and Miles Turner hits three threes in a row.
Yeah.
For some reason, Hartenstein's got an issue in the third corner with just doing dumb shit, because even at that one time with Embiid, remember when he had 5 fouls in the third quarter? And Hartenstein, okay, he hits the first one. First of all, he's Miles Turner. Make him dribble around you, close out his airspace, don't let him shoot threes. Everybody knows that's the scouting report on this guy. But then the second and the third one, it was kind of hard to understand what Hartenstein was thinking at that point and not getting out on this guy. He gets out on him again. Now, when they said he was 7 out of his last 8, I was like, okay. And he missed his next one. So I said he's 7 out of his last 9. Yeah, if he shoots 50% over a 15 shot, stretch, that's pretty good, right? So let's make him be 0 for 5, 0 for 6 in this next game, right, and have, the law of averages, exactly, and, have him regress back to the mean. But yeah, man, it's going to be really important how we come out and how we start this game. We cannot let them just become a runaway train and have this game start getting away from us. We cannot do that. We have to make sure that we start the game with a certain level of intensity. But one thing that makes me feel confident about that, did you see the way this team looked at the end of the game? Compare it to
no celebration.
No celebration, business. And they look like I heard Alan Hahn say this. They look like they were still pissed off about game 4 and how that went. And you know what? In game 4, the Pacers, everybody's dancing, they're laughing, talking cash, money, whole shit, your boy Halliburton, all this, And I don't think the Knicks like that. Can't hold me, this, that. But you know what? At the end of the day, the Knicks had a players-only meeting after that. And I'm sure that they sat and said, yo, man, what are we doing here? And I thought that the person that embodied that new mindset that we had didn't have a great game shooting, but filled up the box score in other ways and filled up the Knicks when it comes to our pride and our spirit in a way that can't be measured on the box score, was our guy, Dante DiVincenzo, the big Ragu. He wanted all the smoke. He didn't care who it was. He was going to get in your face. He was going to have some choice words. He was running through screens hard, playing defense, getting rebounds, offensive rebounds, tap dunks. And I thought that in a game and with a player that you feel like his shooting is the most important thing, Ragu did everything else, and he was vital to that victory last night.
Ragu was fantastic. I mean, even though, like you say, he did not have a very good shooting game. So I love that, in that we won as handily as we did, and this guy didn't even shoot very well. Now, I don't expect, although it could happen, I don't expect Burks and McBride to come up as big as maybe they did, but it's not out of the realm, right? But Ragu is going to shoot better. I definitely think that. And I like the fact that Ragu, like you said, he wants to smoke. He ain't scared of the smoke. And like he said, these guys trying to act like tough guys, they're not tough guys. Okay, number one. But I'm not saying anybody's a tough guy, but they're not a physical team, which I've told you is what they're trying to do. And he's right in one thing, and I always feel this way. Nobody's going to fight in the NBA. Okay, so there's no reason to be scared of anyone. Okay, and that's number one. And number two, sorry to the Pacer fans, but there's definitely no reason to be scared of Miles McBride. Okay, he's no tough guy.
Miles Turner.
Sorry, Miles with a Y. You ask yourself why? No, but he's not a tough guy. And I'm sorry, man, but he's just not a big man that you'd be like, at all. He doesn't exude that at all. And that's fine. I'm not saying he has to be that person. But, okay, I believe what happened with I was watching this replay with the altercation with Ragu, is that, when he gave him the hard screen and whatnot, he gave him a hard back screen. A hard back screen after Ragu had done that tap dunk, which was amazing. Mm-hmm. Okay. He gave him that hard back screen, and Ragu obviously didn't like that. But as they were tangled up there, Ragu shot him an elbow to the midsection. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Miles didn't like that. That's why he got upset. But I love Ragu did that. Because you do that undercover, and it's not a flagrant or nothing. But you know what? If this guy's going to tangle you up and you can shoot him a little something, let's go. I love it. Let's go.
I think that after Ragu got that tap dunk, he knew that he was going to come aggressive with the screen. So therefore, Ragu was like, all right, well, I'm just running straight through the screen. Foul or not, I'm running straight through it. That is what it is.
His back was turned. He didn't even see him back there, man. He was backing up to play defense. and what's his name just stood behind him, and he gave him a hard screen. And listen, the hard screen would have been fine, but afterwards they got tangled up, and he was kind of like tangling with Ragu at that moment. As Ragu was trying to get up, he was trying to slow Ragu down. That's when Ragu shot him the bow.
I think Ragu had an idea that the screen was coming, and I think that
Either
he made
way,
sure he got deep down
it.
and got like, you know, low with the shoulder towards his, you know, like leg and midsection area. And like I said, like you said, either way, I love it. Love it. I love the fact that, you know, Hartenstein was ready to step up for Ragu. You know, earlier on when there was an issue, and you know, Hartenstein, I've been screaming for it all season. When big men, you cannot let these other people pick on your guards. If these other big men want to get after your guards, somebody's got to step up. And then Alec Burks steps up, and he's right behind them, you know, next man up. And that's what he's been for this team. We got to talk about Alec Burks, Burks, man, the consummate professional. I called you Alec Bricks. You are Alec Buckets, the consummate professional. He stayed ready. You don't have to get ready if you stay ready. And he has been unbelievable in these last 3 games, really. And I mean, wow, where would we be right now without him? OG goes down. We need somebody to come in. We need somebody to hit some shots. We need somebody to handle the ball. And he's been doing it all. He looks totally under control out there. That loosey-goosey thing he had going on during the season, he seems to have gotten rid of that. His shot's got a little bit more arc on it. Some people say that he had the shoulder injury before, and now that's healed up a little bit better. So therefore, that's given him a little bit more touch when it comes to, you know, his 3-point shot. But, you know, he's hitting mid-range shots. He's going to the basket. He's making passes. He's playing defense. He's dealing with the pressure in the backcourt almost better than anybody does on our team, really. You know, he gets that ball and he's big enough to just kind of turn his back and work his way up the court. Alec Burks, man, bravo. I gave you so much shit all season long, and you have absolutely answered the call when it matters most. So I gotta, tip my cap to you. Fantastic. Unbelievable, Alec Burks.
Yeah, Alec Burks has been fantastic. Frankly, he's given us more than Bogey was giving us, okay? These last few games, there's no doubt about that. And like you say, he's a walking bucket. He's a professional. Got to love that about him. And although you did point out to me that it was Hartenstein's hand that went to the throat of Isaiah Washington, I still like imagining that it was Alec Burks' hand. And as people have been putting up memes, Alec Burks' pimp hand is strong. You know, I love that. Because whoever it was, okay, it was Hartenstein. But, dude, he kind of just pushed that guy back with his throat. And I got to tell you, as one man to another, dude, I'm not very happy if somebody does that to me. In fact, I'm embarrassed, okay? That's the type of thing that might lead you to just swing.
Right.
Because, oh, dude, you're just going to put your hand on my throat and back me up? Oh, come on, man. It's not a good look, bro. Guarantee you, this guy Isaiah Hartenstein is coming up with blood the next game because he's seen that video enough times now, and he's embarrassed.
Yeah. You can't be too happy about that. Brunson, man. Brunson, and he even at the very end of the game when we were up pretty handedly, he actually like had a little stretch where he was kind of missing some shots that he typically hits. You know, hopefully he got that out of his system and he'll hit all of those shots in game 6. But you know, starting with really the second half of that first quarter, he has 10 in the first quarter, then he has 18 in the second quarter. In the second quarter, he just went nuclear. It was masterful. I mean, he just absolutely took the game over, and you know, the game never really got it never got close after that. It got down to 9 at one point in the third. And then when it gets down to 9 in the third, we come back and we score 17 straight points. And, you know, Brunson had his fingerprints all over that as well. He ends up with 44. He gets to the point now where he has 5 40-point games in this postseason, most since LeBron in 2018. We're running out of things to say about this guy. Everybody wants to keep comparing his postseason run to, different people and what they've done, the Kobe's, whatever. No. In the future, you will compare what he's doing now to somebody else, because this is an all-time run that he's going on right now. If you take into account the injuries, his size, that so many people was such a detriment to him, you've never seen anybody do anything like this. People keep comparing us to those Iverson Philly teams. Iverson was much more of a chucker. He was not as good of a distributor. He was not as efficient as Brunson. I don't think there's anything similar about their games. Yes, it's two teams with a great point guard and, you know, a bunch of quote unquote role players, but all of our role players are stepping up and we're getting contributions when we need them. If you look at our box score, and obviously we had some guys get some garbage time. Like I always tell you, you see Shake Milton, it's either great or it's terrible. It means we're getting blown out or we're blowing them out. And more likely it's that we're blowing them out, because typically when we're losing, Tibbs is still going to have our guys in. And yeah, if you look up and down our box score, everybody that played significant minutes. Alec Burks had 23 minutes and 21 seconds. Precious was the lowest out of the guys who played significant minutes with 22 minutes and 57 seconds. All of them contributed and played well.
Yeah, they
did. All had plus games, and they all had their fingerprints on this win. Precious, as the backup center, is so much more valuable than he is as the starting power forward. He just is. And you can bring him in, and he can play with crazy energy, and he's not having to deal with guarding Siakam nonstop. And he's able to be the guy that helps on Siakam and guards him sometimes. And, he's able to roll to the basket. He had a couple huge blocks as well. I thought Precious gave huge minutes last night. And just an overall great team win. Like I said, our most complete win of the entire playoffs. And now let's see if we can pull one more out on the road and punch our ticket to the Eastern Conference Finals.
I think we can. I believe we're going to win this game Friday. I think we're going to pressure these guys and be able to make them have a tough time with it. But, it's going to be interesting to see, and it's going to be an interesting night for sure. But I trust in our guys. I believe in our guys. I believe we're going to get it done.
I think we can. I'm a little bit nervous just due to the fact that, Rick Carlisle has really called his guys out for their effort. And overall, most of the time teams respond after taking a bad loss. That's what we just did in this game. They're going back home and all those things. So it's really going to be about, okay, can we make it happen? And, can we come out with that intensity, from that opening whistle?
Yeah. Sorry, folks. My little puppy Sonny here is giving me a hard time, so I'm trying to keep him calm. But I can talk and keep him calm at the same time. The issue is, they're going to come out and they're going to be, all over it and everything. But if we weather that storm and play strong against it, they're going to get frustrated and they're going to get nervous because, listen, their backs are against the wall. So we have to put them in position to be desperate and, get crazy. And I think we're going to do that on Friday night.
The one close game that they won, they got an absolute hero shot, from Nemhard.
Never happened again.
And Brunson missed some shots down the stretch there that he typically doesn't miss. I definitely think, if it's a close game with 5 minutes to go, I'll be extremely nervous, but I'll feel some confidence. I don't think they beat us in a close one. I could see them running away from us. But honestly, after the way that game 4 went and the mental fortitude of this team and the way that Brunson talked in the post game, and it seems like these guys are really focused on the business. I think we got a good chance. And just like our man Perk said, who was in the building yesterday, the general, you got to calm your booty a little bit, and you got
cool your booty,
cool your booty. You got to cool your booty, and and have faith. Not only is easy for us Knicks fans to do, but I do think that we can get it done. And I'm looking forward to game 6 on Friday.
No doubt about it. I love our man Perk, the general, like you say, talk about big body Brunson, or Bronson, as he says. It should be a very interesting game, hard fought. These guys are not going to lie down from the outset. That's what I'm saying. You gotta pressure these guys for a long time, and then I think if they lie down or end up giving up, I do think that they will be a better team going forward because this guy is going to mature more. I think right now that the intensity of the situation is a little bit much for Halliburton. But you know what? Let me not talk too soon. Let's see us finish this out, because this guy could come up with something amazing in game 6. And then game 7, anything's possible. So, let's finish it off first, and then we'll talk about that more then.
Absolutely. 2 quick notes. McBride, he set 23 screens in this game. His prior high in one game was 8.
Okay.
Isaiah Hartenstein, 12 offensive rebounds and 5 assists first player with those numbers in one game since Moses alone in 1982.
Moses Malone. Oh, okay. That's right. No, he's very impressive, man. I mean, come on. Moses Malone, that's the guy, you know, in 1982, that season where they won it with Dr. J, Bobby Jones, Mo Cheeks, all those guys back in the Sixer days, you know? Yeah, he was an amazing player.
So with the Jets, there was one thing that we said that we didn't want, was we just wanted a nice early Sunday game on the first weekend, not with all the hoopla, not having to wait until, Monday and having all eyes on the Jets. And it has now come out that the Jets will play week 1 against the 49ers on Monday night. Exact opposite of what we wanted. What do you think about some of the schedule leaks? Jets are also going over to London. I saw that today as well.
Right.
Anything that you've taken from the schedule leaks? And I'm sure there was a little part of you that was a little bit annoyed when you saw that first game was going to be a Monday night.
Nick, honestly, that annoys you more than it does me. I would rather see the game on Sunday because I don't want to wait. But I don't care. I mean, hey, we'll see it on Monday. And, like I heard Greeny was uptight because, the guy who injured Aaron Rodgers last year now plays for the Niners. That same linebacker plays for the Niners. And Greeny floated the idea, maybe we shouldn't play Aaron Rodgers that game, just play Tyrod Taylor, which he was joking about, which is ridiculous, of course. But listen, man, I like, I heard them talking about Alan, Bart and Hahn, and I like what Bart said. He's like, yeah, I love it. Now week number 1, we're going to put everybody on notice that we're here, so let's go. Let's if you want to beat a team, you got to beat that team, or, these guys are really good. Let's go out there and beat them and show everybody what we're all about.
Yeah. Listen, if we want to get to where we want to get to, we're going to have to beat the teams the likes of San Francisco.
Yeah.
And, it will be absolutely a very huge test coming out. I just, to me, it's just more for the pomp and circumstance. I would like to be able to fall, just fly under the radar and maybe not, play a team that has been in the conference championship like every year, it seems like, over the last few.
Right.
So it'll be tough. Saleh against his old team, and Rodgers has a pretty extensive history with San Francisco as well. So it'll be an interesting game, and I'll have to go through my Sunday, just thinking about the Jets game and watching everybody else, and being with my focus on red zone and what everybody else is doing, and then have a very anticipatory Monday all day waiting for the game, and just pray that there's not deja vu. Really, it's just like almost with what happened to us last year on Monday night. It's almost like, yo, man, just let us just chill, like, especially with the way that played out. But it's what it is. And Jets, we'll be able to find out really, really early. There'll be a clear litmus test to kind of see where we're at this season.
Yeah. Now, what happened to us last year? It's not going to happen again. And we, we have to play the NFC West.
All right, find some wood, please.
We have to play the NFC West. So, like it or lump it, I mean, we got to play those teams, which is great for us because when they come out here to play the Jets, we will be there. I mean, to play, I'm sorry, the
Cardinals.
Cardinals, we'll be there.
So lots of reports coming out that the Jets made an effort to hire a de facto OC to oversee Nathaniel Hackett. Obviously, that I'm not a big Hackett guy. And there was also reports that, quite often last year leading up to the season that, much more than often, Rodgers was changing the calls after Hackett was initially putting them in. The offensive relationship between them two is made for that to be the case and for Rodgers to be able to have a lot of leeway. We saw how Hackett's offense performed when he had, the likes of Zach Wilson behind center. And so, what did you think of these reports? Do you think that if we did bring in somebody to oversee him and now he was kind of just a figurehead, that would have been better or worse? And how do you think Rodgers probably feels about, his boy basically being, out if it was up to the Jets, if they were able to find somebody to take over.
Well, that's, of course, assuming that all these reports are factual and happen exactly the way it says. Okay, but let's take it as it is. Let's say that it is factual. Couple things from that. Listen, Jets have every right to look up and figure out what they want to do going forward. Totally. I mean, this is professional sports. Everyone is expendable. Two, it's interesting to me because you get all these reports, but then on the same side, you're going to get the reports that Rodgers is running that building. Rodgers is in control. Well, clearly he's not, right? I mean, if Hackett's his guy, one of two things is true. Either he agreed that, yeah, we need somebody to oversee Hackett, or they didn't even talk to him about that and went out there and looked at it, which I think is more likely if they did, in fact, pursue somebody to oversee the offense. And if they did that without consulting Rodgers, oh, well, I mean, that's it. I mean, listen, Rodgers is our quarterback, and we love him, and we want to make him happy, but the general manager still makes the decisions. And I think, personally, if we are to believe that this report is true, then stop that talk about Rodgers running the building. The both cannot be true at the same time.
Good point.
So that's a thing I take from it.
Good point. I'm glad it didn't happen, because I think that if it did happen, now it just becomes more of a circus. It becomes more of a story. Who's really running things over there? And then, there's some guy who's up in the booth. They're getting cameras on. I'm glad it didn't happen. We got enough to, deal with as far as, stuff outside of what actually happens on the field. But if Rodgers goes down, then I'm very nervous about the only reason that I have any faith in this situation is because I think that Rodgers is really the offensive coordinator. I think Hackett is a hack. If
Rodgers is with Damon Hack. If Rodgers is the coordinator, then why would you care about bringing somebody in? Why would the Jets care about bringing somebody in?
Just because of the story. Because I think that the Jets feel overall that I think that the Jets went into this season more so looking at having contingency plans if Rodgers can't be there. I mean, going into last year with Zach Wilson being the number 2 was stupid. It was bad management. And I think that as an organization, they're going in this year and trying to be more prepared for the possibility that their 41-year-old quarterback might not make it through the entire season healthy. And I think with that being the case, one of the things that they probably said was, if Rodgers goes down, we can't have this guy running the show.
Yeah, but if Rodgers goes down, the only way you would mix up the offensive coordinator thing is if Rodgers goes down and he's out for the season. If Rodgers goes down and he's out for a game, 2 or 3, you're not going to change things. You're going to keep things the same till he comes back.
No, but they wanted to bring somebody in to just take it over. And now I don't think they wanted to bring somebody in that if Rodgers goes down, then he takes it over. They wanted to bring somebody in and just take it over altogether. And obviously they weren't able to find somebody. I'm sure there's a lot of guys who probably didn't want to agree to that type of setup.
Of course not.
Especially anybody with any sort of, prestige or a resume or that's sought after in any single way. And then also, it sounds like they wanted to make that decision a little bit later on in the offseason. And at that point, all of your really good coordinator jobs, they're all soaked up. And even if you're an up and coming guy, if you come and you do a great job, but Rodgers plays, you're still going to be known as the guy that, of course he did well. He had Aaron Rodgers. So it doesn't seem like a very enviable position for anybody with any type of cachet in the league on the offensive side of the ball. And like I said, it's unfortunate that report came out, but I'm glad that it didn't happen. And, it'll go away soon enough. And as long as Rodgers stays healthy, it's a non-story.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it amounts to anything. I don't think they're going to make any changes where that's concerned. And, I think we'll be ready come week 1. I mean, as long as we're healthy, I feel good about it. Also, too, another point Bart made, you know what? If we're going to have to meet the San Francisco 49ers, what better time to meet them than game 1 where all our guys should be healthy? Because like these offensive linemen, they ain't playing in the preseason. If they play 1 set of downs, that's it, man. Maybe 1 set, maybe 2 sets of downs. But nothing beyond that for the offensive lineman. You know that. And Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses. Who's playing the right side? Is it Morgan Moses?
You got it. You got it right.
Yeah. And AVT. Come on, man. AVT is going to be a bubble wrap till game 1. You know that.
Yeah, you don't worry about them getting hurt in preseason games. You just want to make sure that you just hope that they make it through training camp unscathed.
Right. Hopefully. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
We'll be right back with Damon Hack. Today, we welcome an esteemed journalist, both in print and on air. He's contributed to such publications as the Sacramento Bee, Newsday, Sports Illustrated, the New York Times, and is currently an on-air correspondent for the Golf Channel. He's covered the Summer Olympics, the Winter Olympics, Super Bowls, and a multitude of major championships. Welcome to the show, the great and powerful Mr. Damon Hack.
Gentlemen, it's great to be with you. Big fans of the show, and nice to be a guest on it.
Absolutely.
The pleasure is all ours. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So you graduated from UCLA with a history degree, then headed to UC Berkeley to get your master's in journalism. When did you realize you wanted to cover sports for a living, and did you ever consider changing your name?
Yeah, I get teased about my name quite a bit. Hack, for on the basketball court or on the golf course. But it's a memorable name, especially in the sports business, even if it's a little bit ironic. So I never considered changing it. And even as a writer, too, a hack writer is not someone who can scribble well. But I was, known for being a graceful writer. So I said my name can overcome any irony therein. So, yeah, I love sports since I was a kid. Grew up in Los Angeles, was a huge Laker fan growing up. Tried to walk on to UCLA my sophomore year, got cut in the final cut, made it to the final 5-on-5 game. They took 3 players, Chris Kinney, Dave Paulsell, and Lou Ritchie. I remember like it was yesterday. We're talking more than 30 years ago, and I still remember my heart being broken that I wasn't going to play for UCLA or ultimately, be a backcourt mate with Magic and Byron Scott. But I always knew that I wanted to be involved in sports in some way. I loved following the Lakers and the great broadcasters like Chick Hearn or Vin Scully with the Dodgers. I always knew I wanted to be a part of the sports business in some way, whether it was talking about it, writing about it. I did play-by-play at UC Berkeley, covering the Cal Golden Bears as a sports writer and as a radio person. Same thing at UCLA. I worked for KLA Radio, 5:30 a.m. on your dial, 99.9 Century Cable FM. So I kind of just took the steps from there, got internships after graduating with a 2-year master's degree from Cal, covered preps and junior colleges, and was a backup NFL writer, and then ultimately the beat writer for the 49ers from 97 and 99. And then it's interesting, my sister moved from California to New York in 99, a year before I got offered a job to cover the Knicks for Newsday in 2000. And had my baby sister not moved to New York, I'm not sure I would have taken that job. I'm a California kid, but since I knew someone in the big city, my baby sister kind of paved the way for me. I took that job, covered the Knicks for a couple of years, ended up moving on to cover golf and cover the NFL and in different capacities. Newsday, New York Times, Sports Illustrated, as you mentioned. But I've always had a foot in sports, and I've always loved being a part of it. I love the NFL, NBA, PGA Tour, baseball, you name it. I enjoy it.
Nice. So, Damon, I want to start out with just a little aside. The word on the street is that you were perilously close to failing a history class at UCLA because constantly slipping out of class with one Mr. Matthew Burke to play hoops. Is there any truth to that? Talk to me.
So true. So I had to finish school like a lot of kids. Your senior year, you're just not necessarily your eye on the ball. So both Matt and I had to take extra classes over the summer to officially graduate, finish our degrees. Me from UCLA, Matt went to UC Santa Barbara. So we signed up for these great summer classes that were, supposed to be kind of easy, where you could go to class, maybe miss class, do okay on the test, not have to ace the test, just get enough points and credits for you to get that degree. And my goodness, we were walking on a knife's edge because, you're living in LA, going to UCLA, you're already a foot out the door, out of college, ready to take on the world. And our eye was just not on the ball. Our eye was on the basketball. We would leave class early or skip it all together and play these great outdoor on-campus, whether it was 2-on-2 or 5-on-5, just remarkably great pickup. Because, UCLA is one of the great college basketball programs in the history of the sport. So even if there are guys that aren't on the team, the level of student athlete basketball player. A lot of guys who played in high school, a lot of guys who could have played maybe in small colleges. So I spent my 4+ years at UCLA playing a lot of intramural basketball, a lot of pickup basketball. So yeah, that final summer, it was dicey. I did get the degree. I got the paper. I was able to get out there, but it was a close call because Matt and I love playing basketball so much. And a 30-minute break often became a 2-hour sweat fest running up and down the courts off campus.
I do know Matt's love for the Lakers, and we constantly go back and forth at work about the Lakers versus the Knicks. So let me move on there and just ask you, seeing as you covered the Knicks way back when, and you do have a little eye on the Knicks now, how do you compare those teams back then to the teams now, as well as Tibbs back then to Tibbs now?
It's a great question, and it's so cool to see the link, the literal familial link between those teams I covered and the teams of today. Rick Brunson was a guard on those Patrick Ewing, Latrell Sprewell, Allen Houston teams that I covered. Chris Childs, Charlie Ward, got Larry Johnson for a season. It was awesome. And Rick was a good hard-nosed player, kind of come off the bench, get you some good defensive stops, get you a couple of dimes, maybe a basket or two. And I didn't even remember Jalen. Jalen might have been, just born or was about to be born. I mean, it's remarkable when I finally started following him, remembering his name and seeing this kid in college at Villanova, last name Brunson. Oh, now he's, making his way to the league or the association. And now, wait a second, he gets to the Knicks, and to see him blossom, I'm not surprised because, we're talking about a kid who grew up, at going to Madison Square Garden, hearing those roars, those very unique, loud playoff roars, late 90s, early 2000s, the Garden was the place to be. It was the place to be for fans. It was the place to be for the Knicks. It was the place to be for the opponents. There was a reason why Michael Jordan played some of his best games of all time at the Garden. Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, all the way back to Dr. J. The players have loved playing in the world's most famous arena. So for me, it's been fun to have that tie from the late 90s, early 2000s Knicks, and to see this young hustler in Brunson and Jalen just leading this team through dint of hard work, through dint of will, his hard-nosed ability to drive to the basket, finish at the hole, even when his body's horizontal, to pull up and hit the big jump shot, to make those players around him better. And what I remember about Tibbs was he was a tough, hard-nosed, kind of a defensive-minded coach, much in the image of Pat Riley and Jeff Van Gundy before him. Those guys didn't smile very much on the bench. That's what I recall for the most part. And as a child of the 80s who grew up watching the Lakers and the fast break that the Celtics would run and the Sixers, Dr. J and Rock the Baby, and Magic was always pushing the ball up the floor. And Pat Riley was the architect of so many of those great Lakers teams. And to see that transition that he made to a more defensive-minded coach, slowing it down, ground and pound, Ewing and Oak, and later Anthony Mason, and you had Larry Johnson. You had some tough guys that were, you come into the lane, you're going to get, an elbow to the throat, as a late great comedian might say, going to hit you in the stomach or the throat. That's kind of what that basketball was like in the 1990s and early 2000s. So I think this Knicks team, and the game has changed. You got offensive-minded folks, and of course, I was talking about Bernie Mac, the late great Bernie Mac, who the Kings of Comedy. I watched that from time to time just to give me a good laugh. But the game has changed, but I still feel that kind of old school Knicks vibe. The crowd reminds me of those old days at the Garden, just in terms of the magic, the difficulty of a road team trying to come there and perform well, how loud it can be. Echoes of Willis Reed and echoes of DeBusschere and Patrick Ewing, arms raised, standing by the scores table when he finally got to the NBA Finals. So there's a lot of that old school vibe. And Patrick Ewing's been in some of the crowds, and Latrell Sprewell's been to some of the games. Obviously, Rick is there. So it's been neat for people of a certain vintage of our age who remember those Knicks teams to see life kind of come full circle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen, I mean, I'm a huge fan from back then, season ticket holder from 93 to '08. So I was at all those games. I was staring right down at Patrick when he stood at the scorer's table. I was in the crowd, damn near crying with my buddies when we finally made it to the finals. And those were impressive times. So, yeah, you're spot on with that analysis for sure. Nick, what do you have?
Well, when he says damn near crying, that means he was absolutely blubbering, by the way. Quick pivot. And, according to my research team, you were introduced to golf by KPMC Los Angeles radio station director Scott O'Neill as a college intern. Did you fall in love with the sport immediately? Also, talk about your transition from print writer to on-air talent when you landed on the Golf Channel back in 2012.
Yeah, I stumbled on golf kind of accidentally. Didn't grow up with the game. Didn't grow up watching the game. If golf was ever on our television sets, we were waiting for the Laker game to come on or waiting for the NFL game to come on. We did not follow golf in our family, and really wasn't until I was introduced. A late station director at KMPC, Scott O'Neill, had an invitation to go play at a club called Spanish Hills outside of Los Angeles, where I was doing work as an intern and later as a part-time employee. And then later full-time employee. But Scott invited me to play. He said, have you ever played golf? I said, no. He said, this is a game you should play. A lot of business happens on the golf course. It's become more popular. So he lent me a set of clubs, Arnold Palmer Peerless irons, that he later gifted me. I didn't realize at the time that he was giving them to me. I thought they were just to borrow. He ended up letting me keep those clubs because he wanted to bring me into the fold of golfers. And I think I shot 144 in my first round. It was horrible, but there were a couple shots that I hit straight. And I immediately understood the allure and the buzz that you get when you hit a great shot. Not that I hit many of them that day, but I kept wanting to go back. And I started to find people that were like-minded, whether it was in Los Angeles or later graduate school. I found a couple of guys that love playing, and we ended up, setting our schedules. We had no class on Friday, so we could go play golf every Friday in and around Berkeley. But I actually, when I went to grad school, my first thought was I was going to be somehow going to be the next Chick Hearn, going to be on TV or do radio and do play-by-play. But the emphasis over 2 years of grad school was writing and the importance of it. So I kind of pivoted myself and shifted to the written word more and felt that was going to be important whether I got on television or not. It turned out to be true. Whether you're on TV or radio or podcasting or blogging, you need to know how to put words together. You need to know how to write. So it was kind of a happy accident that I fell in love with writing, even though I went to journalism school thinking I would solely focus on broadcast, and ended up having a couple great internships, Fresno Bee, Sacramento Bee, which led to a full-time job at the Sacramento Bee and later at Newsday. Got hired there, offered a job at the New York Times where I spent 5 years, offered a job at Sports Illustrated where I spent 5 years. Toward the end of my stay at Sports Illustrated, you could tell that the advertising revenue just wasn't coming to the print medium as much as it had previously. I was offered a buyout. I decided to accept it because I was offered a job at Golf Channel in 2012, and I made that transition to TV. Now, most print people will tell you they think TV's easy. I was one of those guys that you just go on TV, run your mouth, it's a piece of cake. I didn't realize that you have a producer in your ear, and there's a red light there, and the camera's on, and sometimes you have to read a teleprompter, and it's not as easy as it looks. So in the 12 years now I've been on television, I've really grown to respect the medium, the greats like Mike Tirico and Mike Breen, who I know y'all know very well, and Dan Hicks, the great play-by-play voices, and the folks that make it look so easy. They make it look easy because there's a lot of prep work that goes into, and you got to know what college these basketball players attended, or in the case of college, in case of golfers, what college they went to, or maybe what AJGA events they won. When I go on TV, I got to know that Tiger Woods has won 82 PGA Tour events and 15 major championships, including 5 Masters tournaments. His first major was won in 1997 by 12 shots at the Masters. He also won a U.S. Open by 15 shots at Pebble Beach in the year 2000. I have to know that. That stuff is imprinted in my brain, and that's from prep and from following the greats that have come before me. But I've enjoyed making that transition to the broadcast world, though I still write from time to time. Wrote a piece in the Masters Journal this past year on the great amateur Sam Bennett, who had made a nice run a year ago at the Masters tournament. So I think being able to touch different sports, having covered the NBA, covered the NFL, done some college sports, done some college play-by-play, obviously been to the Masters, covered the Olympics, gone to the British Open, U.S. Open, golf, and tennis. Keeps me abreast of everything going on. And when you have 3 12-year-old boys like I do, I have triplet boys who are sports crazy like I was. They're the ones keep me informed on De'Aaron Fox of the Kings and what Steph Curry did last night, and is John Morant coming back, and how's Dame going to fit with the Bucks. It's fun to have 3 the little dudes who I love so much, who love sports so much. They remind me a lot of me as a kid.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, triplet boys is crazy. As someone who has 3 kids myself that are 3 years apart, I can't imagine some of the literal juggling you had to do when they were young, and probably even now. Any good stories about the trials and tribulations of having triplet 12-year-old boys?
Wow.
I tell you, it's a lot more fun now than it was when it was all about Similac formula and diapers and everything like that. I mean, it's a joy now because we get to do things together. I've taken them to Africa twice on safari.
Wow.
Taking them to a golf tournament once in Scotland where they got to see Rory McIlroy walking the fairways. Popping into New York City. They play tennis. Tennis is the #1 sport, so taking them to U.S. Open tennis every year has been an absolute joy. And just watching their knowledge grow. And obviously, our focus in the house is being a good student and being a good person. But they also love sports. And my wife often will remind me, how lucky are you? How much do you love having this situation where you can go out in the yard? I mean, yesterday, if it wasn't raining today, we'd be out playing 2-on-2, and we play a lot of 2-on-2 basketball together. And they yell at me because I'm a little slow, but I can still kind of shoot over them and kind of lean on them a little bit and kind of show that dominance. I still got a little bit of that, but I can't beat them on the tennis court anymore. Funny thing is, I used to take it easy on them on the tennis court, and I would occasionally let them win, or I would beat them, but let them play well. And now they've gotten so good at tennis that I can't even touch them on the court anymore. And when I play tennis with them, they're bored. It's like they take pity on me now on the tennis court. That's how good they've become at tennis. But they love tennis. They love basketball. And NFL season, we do a family fantasy football draft with my wife joins us and my mom. So 6 of us. And we have a funny story. One year, my mom had the first pick, and she said, I'd like to take for my first pick Nick Bosa. And everybody started cracking up because she thought she could take like a defensive player, not realizing, well, you'd want to take a defense, but you definitely wouldn't want to take a defense before you take, say, JJ or Mahomes or Kelsey or something. So I just remember the look on my boy's face when my mom said, I'm going to take Nick Bosa. They were all rolling on the floor laughing at grandma. So you can just imagine there's a lot of hijinks when you got 3 soon-to-be teenagers under one roof.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure those days of you getting those shots off and beating them in basketball, those are coming to an end soon.
Yeah, I better enjoy it while I can.
I got my pops on here, so I don't know. Well, I was about 13 when I got you, right? That was about the age.
About 13 when I let you win.
So, Damon, how do you see all this PGA LIV drama playing out, and what would you do if you were the commissioner?
Yeah, it's gotten pretty messy, and it's not as messy as it was because the litigation has been thrown out. They've agreed to this framework agreement that at least was to negotiate and to try to find a resolution in good faith. It's been tough as someone who loves the game to see the game in this fractured state. And the commissioner, who was first very anti-LIV and took a defensive stance and an offensive posture as well at the same time, wanted to protect his product, but also, call these people rivals and didn't want to do anything but somehow protect the PGA Tour name and product, started to realize that it wasn't financially tenable to continue raising the purses on the PGA Tour when you're competing against a Saudi wealth fund that has, just eons and eons of money by comparison. So hopefully between the PGA Tour Policy Board and the commissioner and the folks on the other side at LIV, there could be some sort of resolution or not. It's a possibility that LIV may ultimately operate on its own. The PGA Tour does have investment from an American company called Strategic Sports Group, backed by Arthur Blank and John Henry from the Falcons and Red Sox, respectively, investing $1 billion in the PGA Tour product and creating a PGA Tour for-profit PGA Tour enterprises. So, but the players have to buy in, and there's no doubt that just from a character, you've lost some of those guys that made you feel a certain way, whether it was love or dislike. I'm talking about Bryson and Brooks and DJ, Patrick Reed, guys with a little bit of an edge. Those guys are now playing on the LIV Tour. So week to week on the PGA Tour, you've lost some of those natural rivalries in storylines. I'll never forget watching the Masters one year in 2018, and a buddy saw Patrick Reed, didn't know who he was. We were watching on TV. I'd covered the tournament basically from Monday to Saturday, flew home to watch Sunday with my family and some friends. And a buddy just said, Patrick Reed, I don't like him. And he knew nothing about it, but it was just something about the vibe or that he gave off of the screen or something. It's that kind of thing, that you need heroes and villains, hashtag, Metro Boom. And you need some tension in sports. You need a little bit of that rivalry and that guy you're not so sure about. Like, if I can quote the movie Swingers, you want the guy in the rated R movie. Can't always be the guy in the PG-13 movie. You want the guy in the rated R movie that you're not so sure about whether you should root for him or not. So I think the PGA Tour lost a little of that tension. And if there's a collaborative way for those players who left to come back, but they have to have some penalty. And that's one of the big holdups is the guys that stayed loyal to the PGA Tour. Like, wait a second, we're not going to welcome to those guys back who took $250 million and just come back to the tour without any penalty at all, any kind of repercussion. So that's their biggest holdup at this point. So if I was the commissioner trying to find some sort of unification, I think there'd have to be some sort of repercussions. What did Mrs. Soprano Carmela say? Tony, there must be consequences. That's what I would go. I would say there must be some consequences, for John Rahm and DJ, should they come back to the PGA Tour, in my opinion.
Ladies and gentlemen, Damon Hack, thank you so much for coming on. You can find him on the Golf Channel. You can find him on X at Damon Hack GC. Anything else you got going on? Anything you want to promote?
That's really it. I got also a wine website at Goats and Grapes, which is goatsandgrapes.net, and also on Instagram as well at Goats and Grapes. But you got the rest of my Twitter and Instagrams, and it's so fun getting to talk to you, father and son, and Knick fans. It's cool to see the hats and the shirts. And as someone who lives not too far, from the Garden, I'm an hour or so away via train. I can tell you that, I got buddies that are Knicks fans. There's just a lot of buzz and excitement about what's possible with this team, not just for this year, but the core of the team seems strong. There's a lot of excitement that reminds us of those great teams from 2 decades ago.
Damon, please get in touch with Matt or with us somehow. Next time you're coming out here, would love to, Nick and I would love to take you to dinner, sit around, chop it up for a while, okay?
Count on it. I usually come out every year for the WM Phoenix Open, right. So we'll plan on making that happen.
Absolutely, 100%. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Catch us every week on YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. Please follow, like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification button on all platforms. Really appreciate all the love. We try to stay as current as possible, so episodes will drop on Thursdays or Fridays, depending on the Knicks schedule, and you can find us on all socials at he_did this to me. Love you, big guy.
Love you, kid.